The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com
We were on the break!
with Ambar Garcia, Brian Broaddus, Patrick Walker, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, Season 20, Episode number 7. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break, presented by LG. We are live from SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, and today we got a lot of things we're going to try to get into. Talk a little bit about the schedule release, which is coming up later tonight. There is one game that has already been released that we'll have a little bit of talk on. We'll talk some about the rookie minicamp and some of the things you guys saw last weekend when the rookies showed up for the first time here at the Star. And then we'll start our position analysis. We're going to do a little bit. I'm going to combine a little bit of my business school background and football, and we're going to do what's called a SWOT analysis on every position on the team. We're going to start today with the quarterbacks, maybe get to the tight ends as well. We'll see what time looks like as we go throughout the show, but I'll explain that when we get to that segment. Let's start first with schedule release. It comes up tonight. We have some fun stuff planned for you fans tonight that will when we release the Cowboys schedule. But there already has been one game that has been released by the NFL. Week 1, Cowboys will travel to Cleveland. And I think, let me first just say, I would love for all you guys to tell me what your thoughts are on the game, but I'm just going to start it with 2 words, Myles Garrett,
Yes.
and I'll toss it out there and let y'all go. What do you think?
3 words: baptism by fire for Tyler Guyton. And of course, this is, as we have the conversation, Tyler Guyton still has to earn the starting role at left tackle. So he's going to have to go through that crash course this summer like we talked about. And that also includes what he's doing across the street with our friend Duke Manyweather. So he's putting in the work. He started fairly early, rented an Airbnb only 2 days after the draft, after he got the draft call. He wanted to get to work, and so he did. But there's no other way to paint it other than Myles Garrett is going to put him through the ringer, and he better be ready because he's going to have to learn real fast what it feels like to go against one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. 5-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler, reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year. We're about to find out exactly what Tyler Guyton can do at the NFL level.
Any thoughts on that one, AG?
Well, I mean, it was interesting. So yesterday, the coordinators and the coaches got a time to speak to the media, and it was interesting more so than just Guyton, the battles and the shuffling around the O-line and the guys that are planning to try out kind of at center. And we thought, we've talked about Tyler. No, TJ Bass is who I was thinking. TJ Bass. There's so many names with T's, but it's interesting because it's gonna be a really good competition just to see more so than just Tyler Guyton, what he's doing there. Yes, that's definitely gonna be a big challenge, but we know that the O-line works as a whole, and it's a whole team effort there. But BB, TJ Bass kind of competing at the center position and seeing what that's gonna look like. It's gonna be a very big challenge, and that's one of the things I've been most concerned of, because when you see these guys, these young players, they have the size. They look good, like size-wise. You have a lot of guys that look the part, but now are they gonna be ready to take on that big challenge right off the bat? And that's going to be tough. And that's my biggest concern, is the lack of experience and the amount of growth. Rookies do need some time to develop and kind of go in there. But like you said, baptism by fire. I've never heard that word before, or that saying, but it's definitely going to be some type of baptism.
Yeah, this is it's never easy. I mean, this whole schedule's full of guys. For a rookie guy, it's we'll see how they adapt. Some of them adapt very well. Some of them play at a very high level. Early season games, you're kind of, a little bit at the mercy of your conditioning. And we've seen games where, You feel like guys are going to get, especially pass rushers, they're going to get started, and they got to get a little rhythm. And a guy like Myles Garrett, he ain't going to play a lot of preseason games. And what's his conditioning going to be like opening day? What is the conditioning going to be like for a lot of these players? So when you if this was, say, a week 6, week 7 matchup, I would feel a little bit more worried. But early season, you don't know. I mean, there's things about the Browns, there's things scheme-wise they can do to work around Myles Garrett. There are things to do. They can chip, they can space him, they could they can make him have to play wider, with all that we were talking about. So to me, he doesn't know a lot about Tyler Guyton. I mean, how much does he know about his pass rush blocking ability?
Mm-hmm.
There are things that Guyton, he might be surprised with Guyton's length. He might be surprised with Guyton's height and his athletic ability. That, if you're going to play against Myles Garrett, you better be ready to be a really good foot athlete, because he's going to carry you wide. He's going to carry you inside. He's going to carry you a lot of places. This kid's, it'll be an eye opener for him. But there's ways. This is what these coaching staffs do. They spend all offseason now that they know the Cleveland Browns are week 1. Now you figure out ways to just look at every single game and how people played against Myles Garrett and figure out what's the best way to neutralize him. You're not going to stop him every single time. But his unknown about Guyton and Guyton's unknown about him might play to an advantage for the Cowboys. And then also the conditioning of week 1. We've seen players deal with cramps, don't have their wind, not ready in real good football shape at that point in time. This might be an advantage playing a guy in week 1.
Also, how would you guys handle preseason? I mean, do you have your?
He plays.
They need reps.
He plays.
But you have your center and left tackle play with the backups at the other positions?
Just play.
Or do you
Just play.
They play a lot in I think in the preseason games when the other starters come out, they stay in.
But I'm talking about the other veterans, like the starters. Your Zach Martin, your
Are you saying
Tyler
you play them
Smith,
more
like,
for the purposes of
Absolutely
continuity?
I
got you.
Just getting in line. I'm just asking.
Yeah,
I
for
know
me-
we're against like
yeah,
having
for
these
me,
starters out
it's-
there
yeah.
during the preseason, but based on the getting everybody on.
No, you're
sync.
right. As far as, because we talked a lot about it last year when the Cowboys had injuries, and we talked about how many games does an offensive line need to play together to have that chemistry, and I think it comes up to around 4 in my head. But you have to also weigh it against who we're talking about. So, for example, we're talking about Zach Martin. Zach Martin, number one, doesn't need the preseason reps, and it's risk versus reward in that the risk that you have with him being out there, possible injury, versus the chemistry. Zach can get the chemistry quickly from week 1, 2, 3, as long as it's a cohesive unit to start the season. So I'm not worried about Zach Martin getting the cohesiveness or Terrence Steele, for example. But with the rookies, I see what you're saying there.
Because it was a big talk last
and
year.
it
We
was.
took
Yeah.
several
It was.
weeks
But,
for them to get in sync.
I will say this: if it were me making the decision, I might consider putting 4 of those 5 guys out there and playing them a little bit more in the preseason. I don't need Zach to touch the field in the preseason. The other 4, though, give me Bass out there with him, and I'll put that 5 out there, and I'll let him run through the first quarter, maybe the first quarter and a half,
Some Hoffman.
just to give me a little bit of time to see them together and let them work together. Because I do think, especially on the left side of the line, Tyler is important to that because he's got a guy on the right and on the left that are new. And so them having some time together, I think, might be very important. So I might consider doing a little bit more with my younger guys like Tyler Smith, and maybe even with Steele. I just wouldn't do it with Zach.
Yeah, and I'm fine doing it with Tyler Smith because of the age factor.
They need to play halves. I mean, the young guys need to think about playing a half of a game.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah,
and especially if we're trying to get an evaluation of Trey Lance.
Yeah,
how much is Dak going to play in these games?
No.
And we're trying to figure out running back by committee. Yeah, we know the number 15 can run the ball. We've seen Rico Dowdle run the ball, but who else? Who is going to be? I think you're only going to carry. You need to get Deuce Vaughn going. You need to figure out what Deuce Vaughn is, or it's going to be we're going to get down to the final cut and we're going to have Deuce Vaughn on the bubble, and we're all going to look at each other and go, we really didn't know what Deuce Vaughn is. They've got to figure out. There's a lot of things, and if you're playing these young linemen, Beebe, Smith, Guyton, if you're playing these young guys, then you get an opportunity not only to evaluate them, but you're evaluating your quarterback. How about the receivers out there too? You're trying to find a third guy right now. So there's a lot of things going into this.
And kind of dovetailing off of that, looking at the Browns matchup, excited to see what Guyton does in this baptism by fire against Myles Garrett. But we talk about how the Cowboys' offensive line needs to improve run blocking. Well, now we're going to look at Tyler Smith, Cooper Beebe, and, of course, Zach Martin going up against Dalvin Tomlinson, for example, right, going up against Shelby Harris. So they're going to have their hands full as well. You talk about young guys trying to figure it out. Well, Cooper Beebe, he plays with this particular bullying demeanor. He wants to dirt guys. Well, you're going to get some veterans that don't often get dirted, right? So we want to see what the run game can be, but half of that equation is going to be how this front three performs against their defensive tackles.
Yeah,
and they have some good ones in Cleveland. The good news is for the Cowboys is that the defensive coordinator that is here now, Mike Zimmer, he knows Tomlinson well, and he knows Zadarius Thomas well, for example. So he has some inside information that'll help this offense.
Well, don't lose sight of the fact that just like the offense is going to have a challenge, the defense will also have a challenge going up against the likes of Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, and of course Amari Cooper. That's the other storyline to this that gets really interesting is that you go there and you have to face Amari Cooper, and I'm sure he's already circled it.
He'll be playing at home at his home.
Yes, I'm sure. So. I'm sure that will be a game that he circles.
All things considered, if it continues as it is, Al Harris gave us a great update on Trayvon Diggs yesterday. Said he's on schedule. He didn't want to put a timeline on it because that's for Britt Brown and his staff. But it sounds as if Trayvon is on track to be on the field week 1. But which version of Trayvon are we going to see week 1 going against a guy like Amari Cooper? Or will they put Bland on Cooper and let Trayvon have a little bit of grace because he's coming back from a torn ACL?
Well, I hate to say history has not shown that these guys are coming back from injuries immediately jump in.
Yeah.
We've seen all of a sudden week 6, week 7, they start to look a little bit more like the player before they got hurt. Those are the things you always got to keep in mind.
I'd put Bland on Cooper and give Trayvon some grace there.
Yeah, to be honest with you, my guess is that they're going to move Cooper around a little bit. So you may
get him in there.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'd start moving guys just to stay with Cooper. I think you kind of match up and you see where you go. The good thing about it for some of those guys, at least, they've practiced against Amari Cooper, right? They have some experience with him, so they kind of know what he likes to do. They have some tell signs on him. And by the way, it goes both ways. He probably has some tell signs on them as well. But it'll be interesting matchups, and I think this matchup is a very interesting for the Cowboys against an AFC team to begin the season for all of the reasons we just mentioned. It will be a fun matchup. All right, we're going to go ahead and
quarterback.
Say again?
Mobile quarterback too.
Yeah, and honestly, Deshaun Watson is probably one of the biggest. He's probably one of the biggest question marks in the entire NFL from the standpoint of will he or when will he resume his career in the way that it was before he was out of football? We don't know but if and when. Like if he gets back to that, and then you combine him with the running game with Chubb and with Amari Cooper and with Myles Garrett on the defensive side of the ball, they got some pieces. Like they got some pieces to be a very, very dangerous team. So it'll be interesting.
This linebackers core is going to get tested too. So thank goodness Eric Kendricks is in the building, and we'll see. Overshown. He might need some grace. We talk about Trayvon Diggs might need some grace, but you're going against a mobile quarterback. He's going to try to, burn those edges. Your linebackers are going to have to be disciplined and have the ability to know when to go chase and know when to drop back and know when to change gears. So linebacker core is going to get tested also.
Yeah, I forgot they traded for Jerry Jeudy too from Denver.
Yeah.
So
they did.
There you go.
Oh wow, yeah.
There's another swap.
Yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah.
Well, David Njoku, the tight end's a really athletic guy, and
absolutely.
then Jerry Jeudy, and then with Cooper. I mean, they've got capable guys on the outside.
That's a good roster. So that's going to be a very big test for the Cowboys on the road to start week 1.
But like Mike McCarthy likes to say, he likes to find out early on what we got, So that's going to be a good test.
Here we go.
There's no ramp up. There's no
early on.
Here we go. Yeah, but by the way, that's the NFL. Like there are, as you were kind of mentioning there, Brian, there are probably 10 games on the schedule this year where you're like, oh, that's going to be a very, very tough matchup. Like there are a lot of good teams in the NFL, especially right now. When you're looking at the rosters, you're like, man, they got a lot of weapons. We'll see how it all plays out once you get there.
I know I was terrified of a week 2 game against the Jets until I saw what happened to week 1.
Yeah, right.
Aaron Rodgers.
It could change everything. Yeah, absolutely.
And but it's also different going against, because even last year, the Giants are a divisional rival for week 1, and there's familiarity there, et cetera, but suffice it to say, even if we were having this conversation before week 1 last year and then comparing it against what we're saying with the Browns, this Browns matchup is light years more difficult. So the Giants, nobody expected a 40-0 blowout at MetLife, but those are two different teams.
Those are not the same teams.
Yeah, those are not the same teams. So that could be respectfully viewed as kind of a ramp up getting into the season. This is not that. This is let's go.
All right, let's take our first break. Let's come back. Let's get some observations from the rookie minicamp. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Cowboys fans, after that move, we've just coined the term Rowdy Replay. Let's roll back the tape.
Okay, there's our mascot Rowdy cheering on the boys. And now he's on his phone, on his Bank of America mobile banking app?
Staying on top of his finances with his virtual financial assistant, Erica.
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive. Cowboys fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/can't-stop-banking.
Erica is only available in the English language. You must download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Member FDIC.
Welcome back into Dear Doctor, the show where I answer life's questions with an ice-cold can of Dr. Pepper. Sheila, let's hear from our next caller, would you?
Dear Doctor, my friend supported me during a tough time, but what's the right gift that says, thanks for being a shoulder to cry on?
Okay, this one's easy. I say give her a delicious Dr. Pepper. Nothing says, thanks, girl, better than a one-of-a-kind soda. Yes, any Dr. Pepper flavor will do. Now, just a reminder that I don't need to be a real doctor to know that Dr. Pepper is the one you deserve.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag & Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag & Turf, the official Ag & Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
Register now for the 2024 Dallas Cowboys Youth Football and Dance Camps presented by Invisalign. Athletes of all skill levels 6 to 16 are invited to learn from the best this summer at the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Register for 2 or 3 day camps before May 17th. To save $25, visit DallasCowboys.com/camps.
Welcome back. Second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by LG. And this segment is brought to you by Blockchain.com. All right, let's talk about the rookie minicamp. Rookies showed up last week for the first time here at the Star. I want to go around the table. Each of you guys give me one observation. It can be from when you first met guys to what you saw on the field to any locker room interviews. One observation that really stood out to you about any player that is a rookie that showed up last weekend. Let's start with you, Brian.
You know, Mike Zimmer told us that he was working with Mozzie Smith on his stance. And I'm thinking, like, stance? You know, football players know about stances. They're honestly working with guys on their stance. I was looking down at the other end of the field, and when you look at the defensive tackles down there with Justin Rogers and Denzel Daxon and Marshawn Nealon and those guys, it's so funny how you draft somebody and when you bring them in, you have to completely turn them around. Mm-hmm. You turn them into something. So it really was the observations for me. I'm like going, gosh, they're working on steps. They're literally working on stance. And so to me, it's the basics of just trying to get these kids acclimated to what they're going to do. You're going to get a lot more of an evaluation when we get the veterans and they can work together. We'll see some team periods and things like that, which will give you a better idea. But it is really about the basics when you bring these guys in. And so, you know, the size, physically, how these guys look. I was really super impressed, if I could, just real quick. Mm-hmm. These safeties that they had, the Amani Johnson and Julius Wood, these are two really good-looking safeties that they brought in, big guys. And so, you know, it's good to see some size. It's good to see the idea of what they were having at some certain positions. But it all boils down to, can you even line up and get in a stance? That might be the most important thing I learned from that camp, that there's going to be some work of having to maybe convert some guys and take them into, like, hey, you might have done it this way in college, but we need you to do it this way for what we're doing.
A couple things. First and foremost, Marshawn Nealon is physically impressive. You know that by looking at the film, but it's not until you are standing right in front of him until you realize at that moment that this guy's a specimen. He has the size, the mass, and he is absolutely chiseled. And I love his demeanor as well. It's kind of like this soft smile that, it's that FAFO. And if you know the acronym, you know what I'm going for there. He wants to get on the field and really do some damage. And I think there's a reason why the Cowboys saw so much in him to use a second-round pick on that guy. So that's one. Is Marshawn Nealon is much more physically impressive in real life than film would indicate. Second for me is the battle at center. Ambar touched on this earlier because it's something that Mike Solari said yesterday in the Q&As. TJ Bass is going to be competing at center alongside Brock Hoffman, alongside Cooper Beebe. I had my eyes glued to Cooper Beebe, seeing how comfortable he was in the context of, granted, the veterans were not there. It's not a full offensive line in rookie minicamp. That's not until effective yesterday. But he did look, for what he was doing, he looked comfortable. He looked comfortable pointing out the pre-snap identifiers and things like that. And that also goes to the fact that in speaking with Beebe, he said that he's been putting a lot of work into his transition to center off of the field. So to the point where he said he'll be at home, and we asked, well, who's catching your snaps? And he said anyone who's willing. Like, he's throwing snaps to his dad, to his mom, to his brother, like whoever is willing to get out there in the yard and catch his snaps. And it's starting to kind of show in how quickly he's being able to transition. So for me, it's Cooper Beebe's transition at center, but also the light bulb coming on saying, hey, this isn't simply Cooper Beebe versus Brock Hoffman. They're throwing TJ Bass in there as well, because Mike Solari said preferably they'd like to have maybe 3 available centers when they go into any given game.
Mike Solari keeps reminding us about Hoffman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's not going to let us.
So does Stephen Jones.
He's not going to let us forget about Hoffman.
Yeah. It seems like they really, like, a lot of people in the front office like him.
Yeah. And that's, you draft Beebe, and we've all got plug and play in mind, and we've got Beebe as that guy. And you're right. He's going to have to work on snap, step. Those are things that his life has always been hand on the ground, step, go kind of a thing. Now you got to snap, make sure it's there, and then you get to go.
Yeah.
But, everybody's got him just plug and play. And everybody in the organization is kind of like, just give Hoffman a chance. Give Hoffman a chance.
That is
they keep reminding you about Hoffman.
Some of the conversations I've had with people around here, I think the reason why there's that level of respect for him is because he is a worker, man. Yeah. He is he's always here. He's always working.
Terrence Steele-like.
Yeah, and I think there's something that's respected in this business when you find somebody that's just willing to put in the work.
We remember Joe Philbin. Joe Philbin fell in love with Terrence Steele when I was throwing dirt all over him.
Yeah.
I was not giving Terrence Steele the opportunity, even the light of day, to be a starting right tackle in the National Football League. And, Joe Philbin kept reminding us, first in, last out, weight room guy, likes to study film, asks a bunch of questions, very intent. Coaches love those guys. They love those guys. They have to coach them, but they love the self-motivated guy. And I think that this is the if you talk about pet cats for an offensive line coach with Mike Solari, I think that Hoffman's his guy. And he is going to always remind you, every time. Well, you talk about Beebe, this Hoffman kid we got, he's a tough kid, He will go out of his way to mention Hoffman. I think we interviewed him on day 3 of the draft talking about Hoffman. What did he do out there in front of the media the other day? He brought up Hoffman again. Really didn't even talk about a lot of other guys. But Hoffman was a guy that he wanted to point out. So, I
think similar.
There's going to be a battle there. Yeah. There's going to be a battle.
About a year ago, it was kind of similar to TJ Bass. TJ Bass was the guy that everyone kept bringing up.
Yeah.
Even when you weren't talking about him necessarily, teammates would bring him up and talk about how impressive he's been and all of that and what he's shown. But another thing that was brought up that I think it's important was he reminded us of you can only dress X amount of players on game day. Yeah. So it is very important. Something that they're keeping in mind is just making sure they're kind of dividing repetitions at different spots to where they do have that versatility to where if anything was to happen, you do have guys that are already have been practicing, getting some reps there. So I think that's very, very valuable to not only see, but also hear that they're focusing on that. But something that was impressive to me, and I always talk about wanting to talk to the players, getting a vibe and all of that. And something that stood out for me is this time around, and it always has been this way, except this year. It wasn't like, oh, look at that baby. Oh, little baby. And then I'm like, dang, I'm old. Oh, my God. I started just like you when I got here. But I got in front of men that look like mature, grown men, not only in the way they looked physically, as far as like height and shape and form and all of that, but also the way they presented themselves to where
NIL.
they looked very comfortable.
NIL has changed the game.
Yeah.
College kids come in way more savvy when it comes to the media than they did before.
And Guyton is a perfect example. Guyton has hit the ground running with how he addresses the media.
So that was impressive to me, just the confidence, the way they spoke, the confidence and the maturity that they seem to have right off the bat, that they look like once we see them with the veterans, that they'll fit in very well.
The pandemic also gave everybody an extra year.
Yeah,
so you have some 6-year guys now in college football.
Yeah.
What Tank said, shouts out to COVID.
Yeah.
Still can't believe you said that.
All right, here's another question I have for you guys about the weekend. And really, this is about the draft class and undrafted free agents who the Cowboys have signed. Who do you think is more of a lock to be a starter in week 1?
A lock.
A lock.
If you had to... Okay, depending on what happens at right defensive end, does Marshawn Nealon do more than Sam Williams? That's the question you have to ask yourself right there.
Are you assuming Micah would be penciled in as a start at linebacker?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, maybe this offensive line group, maybe the left tackle probably would be a guy that you would say is a lock. But I was trying to go differently because I kind of feel like that's those line positions, that might be a lock.
Yeah.
But if you're going... I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to put a lot of pressure on this kid. This Kalen Carson's a hell of a football player out of Wake Forest. If he plays well enough outside during training camp, could that mean you kick Bland inside and Jordan Lewis is now odd man out? So I'm keeping a close eye on Kalen Carson. Because if he
got that kind of ability?
He's got that kind of ability. I think there were so many corners in this draft that he got lost in a pretty deep group. And he's just his traits are just what Mike Zimmer likes. And they had him playing right corner in this just kind of starting out. We'll see if they move him around. But if he's good enough on the outside, and he played as what we know as a field corner, which covers, the field corner takes a lot of space. So I just wonder if he's good enough. Does it make them feel like he could start in the nickel on the outside and then they move Bland? That's what I'm gonna kind of monitor that as we go along.
I think my closest lock, and it's difficult to say because each of these rookies are up against competition. So like Kalen Carson, he's up against Jordan Lewis and the Deron Blands of the world. But and Cooper Beebe, he's up against Brock Hoffman and TJ Bass. And Tyler Guyton, when you look at who he's up against, he has the best opportunity to be the most likely starter for week 1 of this entire rookie class. It's his athleticism. It's his physical stature and build. And it's also the fact that he's your first-round pick. And then who is he challenging? Because now with him in the building, presumably Tyler Smith is going to stay at left guard. So that means he's going up against Chuma Edoga. I think he can beat out Chuma Edoga this summer. He's going against Matt Waletzko. Waletzko has to prove he can remain healthy. They're moving Josh Ball inside. So when you look at the competition versus Guyton, and you look at Guyton's ceiling, even going into week 1, year 1, I think Guyton is the most likely to be a lock. Not to say that he definitely is, but he has the best shot.
You want a dark horse? You want a real? I know you're saying locks. You want a dark horse on this one? Justin Rogers starting over Mozzie Smith. At one technique.
That would be a story in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. In talking to people about Mozzie, they're going to do their best they can to get him ready. They want him to be in the weight room. They want him to put on as much good weight as they can. They want to get his strength back. Right now I believe he's at 305. They're rehabbing the hell out of him, trying to get him ready. But if you wanted a dark horse, maybe, and I know you asked the question for a
No, that's fine. That's good.
But somebody that Justin Rogers shows enough that he's the starting one technique against the Cleveland Browns on opening day.
Yeah.
That would be something I would keep an eye on.
That's exactly the guy that I was going to mention. And it's odd because obviously being picked in the 7th round, typically you're not going to pick that over who was your first round pick last year. So it's difficult. But at the same time, this guy does have the size.
Yeah.
He has the size. He has the weight, and he can be a guy that you plug in there and just settles that, like, try to move me.
Yeah.
And not only that, but he's also he's shown to be really good at helping blocking the run game, run defense, and that's something that obviously the Cowboys have struggled with. So he's not necessarily someone that I feel with confidence to say, oh, he'll be a starter over Mossy, but definitely someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I keep thinking back to
I think Mossy's
another
got a long
Auburn
road.
defensive tackle that they brought out late round, turned into a player in Jay Ratliff, and I'm like,
draft.
if only they can get another. Was that your draft?
2005. That
Yeah.
was the last one. That was that draft with Ware and Spears.
In my opinion, the best draft in Cowboys history. That's my personal.
It was a good one. That was a good draft. And then you look at Chris Canty in that draft as well.
Yeah.
So there was quite a few.
Yeah. Kevin Burnett in that draft, second round. I think he was.
Was that the?
It was Ware. It was Spears. It was I think Kevin Burnett was the second round pick. I don't remember who was third round. Canty was fourth, right?
Canty was fourth. Yeah. But they had it was a good draft.
Was Barber in that draft?
Marion Barber was in that draft.
He was the fifth pick in that draft, right? Yeah. Fifth round pick. Yeah, that was
You're testing me on all this stuff, but I remember
such a good draft.
The thing I think why Justin Rogers has a chance is because right now there's so much unknown about Mozzie Smith.
Yeah,
I think that to me is, if you said, well, what's the thing you probably know the least is going to. I don't know what's going to happen with Mozzie Smith.
Yeah.
I don't, and I'm saying that I'm not saying it in a negative way. I just don't know right now with that.
All right, we're going to take our final break. We'll come back. We'll start our position series. Don't think we'll get to the tight end position today, but we'll do the quarterback position. We'll see how far we get with that. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Don't put off getting your oil changed, Dallas. Take 5 Oil Change. A proud partner of the Cowboys is faster than you think. There's no appointment needed and no waiting room. Yep, you heard that correctly. Take 5 is so fast, you don't even have to get out of your car. You can take advantage of Take 5's fast, friendly, and simple service at any of their locations across the Dallas area. And remember, at Take 5, you stay in your car because they're faster than you think. Take 5, the official oil change of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the Playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Back to the break.
Hey, the 2024 PBR World Finals are taking over AT&T Stadium. It all starts May 17th with Kid Rock's Rockin' Rodeo. Then on May 18th and 19th, the finalists compete in the 2024 PBR Championship. Let's rock and ride. 3-day tickets are on sale now at SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing partner of AT&T Stadium.
Well, do you have something?
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
You talk about you do your deep blues and stuff like that. The PBR stuff does deep blues on bulls, like the famous
actual bulls.
The actual bulls, like Bodacious and these bulls. These bulls have personalities, and they tell the stories of these bulls. And the bulls can't talk, but they show them in the pens, and and then they show them throwing the Cowboys
coming from their mouth.
Yeah, they show the Cowboys getting flung into next week, and they're interviewing them, and the Cowboys like, oh, there's no way you're going to ride that guy. but they do some like really good deep blues on the bulls, and the bulls can't even talk.
That's
but
actually pretty good.
the guys that have ridden them are all like, oh man, you don't want to get on that one.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the final segment
You
of
fall
the
down
break.
those rabbit holes sometimes watching bull documentaries.
We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by LG. Okay, I'm about to take you guys to business school. All right. There was this thing that we would do in
Is that why
business
you
school.
wore your jacket?
No, I wore my jacket because it's the
suit
Super
thing?
Bowl of media coming up today.
I saw you on TV yesterday.
Did you?
They did a thing.
That was an ESPN thing.
That was an ESPN thing about schedule releases.
Yeah.
Really?
It looked like, okay, who did the Chargers do when they was animated?
Yeah, they've done that for the last.
Is it their
2 or
LA
3
influence?
years.
Is it
They've
studio
done-
influence?
I don't think so. I think they've done it for a few years. They've done the little animated, anime.
They interviewed
type
all
thing.
your department.
Yeah, well, it was me and Drew, and Drew heads our creative video team.
The
and
young
then,
lady.
Brittany Johnson, who heads
yeah.
our social media team.
Yeah.
The three of us did the interview with
Yeah.
them. So,
Yeah.
That was a piece they did last year, and they've kind of redone it a little bit, but used some of the old footage this year. So.
It looked like to me that the Chargers did have an interesting one when it was cartoon-like.
Yeah, it's anime. They do anime, and they've done it for a couple, like at least 2 years, maybe 3, but at least 2.
So they need to change their bit, is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying they did a good job. And by the way, it's really good.
pretty
It's
awesome.
actually really good. So I don't know. Sometimes you find something and it works, and you just kind of stick with it because
Yeah.
it works, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if they did that again.
You can
this
never
year.
go wrong with anime. Just
Yeah,
put
I mean,
that out
people
there.
love anime. I don't. I'm not an anime person. My daughter's huge into it. She loves it.
I am.
Yeah.
I was gonna
It's
say,
now
was it
kids.
them? Was it them? Who was the team that attacked everybody?
Them.
They attack
was
everybody
them.
every year.
It was them. And we'll leave it at that.
They attack everybody.
Chargers are attacking?
And we'll leave it at
Oh, they
that.
attack
Oh, you're
everybody.
giving them a lot of
'cause-
praise here.
No, I'm saying anime. No, I'm saying you can't go wrong with anime. I was giving love to anime.
We could like
Let's be clear.
pre-Paul Tyson, we could have you versus the guy at the Chargers
Well,
as boxing.
Well, whenever we play the Chargers again, we may have something fun for them. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how
You've
it
had enough of the Chargers. Is that what
we
you're
had-
saying?
No, I respect what they do. I really respect what they do.
You respect
they
what they do,
a
but
really good
if
job.
the guy was here, you'd fist fight with him, right?
I don't fight anymore. That's my younger days. I've left that behind.
You're
I
such a
don't
liar.
do that anymore.
Plus, they took that L last year anyway. So
Yeah.
There you go.
You don't have to say anything when
There
you
you go.
said something,
Right.
right? All right, let's go. So let's talk about position analysis. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna do
Is the
something
show
called
over now?
We're gonna do something called a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I'll
Let me get my
explain.
notes. Hold on.
I'll explain each one as we go through. Let's start though with strengths. We're gonna start with the quarterback position. I want each of you to tell me what you think the biggest strength of this quarterback group is. Let's start with you, Patrick.
IQ and ability to put up points. If we're talking about Dak Prescott, yes, he has his faults, but we're talking about strengths right now. So he has full command of his NFL offense, full command of the Cowboys offense. Didn't take him long, and it's crazy when you think about it because how many coordinators is this for him now as far as play callers goes, right? So, yeah, and he just continues mostly to perform at a high level in the regular season at least. Still got to get over that postseason hump. So for me, yeah, and then when you look at Cooper Rush is who I call your cool hand Luke. He can come in. He's not going to win you the game, but he's not going to lose you the game either, right? Question mark still on Trey Lance. The potential is certainly there as a former 3rd overall pick. Strength being that he has the ability to move the ball, he can move his legs, challenge opposing defenses in that way, but still a lot to be determined on Trey Lance. So I can't really put a lot on Trey Lance in the strength category, but I can on Cooper and Dak.
Depth. That would be what I would say.
Yep.
Experience and depth.
Okay.
I would say, as far as Dak, I think he is at his prime. He's not too young where he's still having to learn a whole lot, but he's not old enough where he has a bunch of like little things that are nagging his body health-wise, knock on everything, yes. But yes, he's healthy and I think he is right at the prime of his career. He had his best year last year, and I think this is, I'm not gonna say this is nothing. It is what, yeah. He's where he's at. Yeah. I'm gonna shut my mouth with some of the things, but as far as Trey Lance, the youth. He's a young guy that there's still a lot of unknowns because we just haven't seen it just yet. Right. But it does give you hope as far as development of what you can possibly do with him as well.
Biggest weakness of this group?
Lack of playoff success.
I was going to say winning the playoffs.
You can't say big game success because they've won some big games. But I think lack of playoff success is what hangs over this group's head.
Yeah, same. Winning the playoffs. And we talked about this. We said this before they lost to the Green Bay Packers. We said if they lose this game, then all of next season is going to have this huge asterisk as we're enjoying the wins that they have. Let's say they win against the Cleveland Browns. We'll sit here and we'll enjoy that, and we'll talk about that playfully with a bunch of optimism, and then we'll have to close out that show by saying, now do it in January. So now Dak Prescott didn't necessarily lose you the game against the Packers. I think the defense mostly lost you the game against the Packers, to be fair. But Dak was slow getting going, and he would have had to save his defense sooner than he was able to try to do so. So winning the playoffs, that's what everybody wants. It's got to happen.
Yeah, there's no other answer than that. I mean, we've seen a lot of the things that we've asked of Dak throughout his career, whether that was throwing more downfield, those long passes, those long shots. He's done it. Red zone, done it. He's being a mobile quarterback. He's shown to do that before. So he's improved a lot of different areas, reducing the turnovers and throwing those interceptions. But the main thing,
January.
Those playoffs game.
Yeah. All right, so the next one is opportunity, and I'll explain what I mean by that. What I want to know is, what is an unknown right now, a question mark right now that could become a big asset for this group?
Getting him signed. If you just want to talk about the quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, getting him signed, that's your asset right there. If they find a way to get it done, then, that buys you a couple more years, hopefully. Hopefully of MVP type level quarterbacking.
Mm-hmm.
But that's an unknown right now. Are you going to be able to get that done? The asset could be getting it done. The unknown is we don't know if it's going to get done.
I said that, and I agree with Brian. The asset is getting it done, because if you don't get it done, guess what? You also don't have Trey Lance under contract for a long period of time either. And you want Trey Lance to compete directly with Cooper Rush for QB2. He got all these question marks, but all of this is predicated upon Dak Prescott being here for the future. Yeah. And if you don't get Dak Prescott signed, and for whatever reason they part ways next year, is Trey Lance ready? Because you're only going to be basing that assessment next year off of this coming preseason, and probably nothing more. That's a lot. So get your QB1 signed.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to affect so many other things, because what does that contract look like? What does the money look like? Is that going to hold you hostage in having the ability or capability of signing other players that can be weapons and actually help? It's a lot of unknown, and even if, let's say, you don't get him signed, then now you're going through a whole restructure type of wipeout, like finding a quarterback.
It's going to affect you. It's going to affect you anyway.
Either way,
because he's going to cost $48 million if you don't sign him.
So
on the dead side.
For the younger Cowboys fans who have not experienced QB purgatory with this team, trust me when I tell you, you don't want any parts of that. You just don't want any
Been
parts
there,
of it.
done that. Ain't fun.
You're looking at me.
Fun. No, I don't blame you. But you were here with me. You remember it. It's not fun, man.
It is. There's nothing.
It's not fun.
If I would give anything to have the way that teams get rid of their quarterbacks today, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
If you would have let me have opportunities to have Aaron Rodgers and get people like that, or trade for or sign Kirk Cousins or something like that, I might be still working in scouting. That's how hard it was 25 years ago to find a quarterback.
Because if you had one, you weren't letting them go.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. A franchise got changed in 1999 in the 6th round drafting a quarterback, New England Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
That's how lucky you have to be sometimes.
Yeah.
And you might be that way here with
sure.
You might be that lucky with the guy you drafted here several years ago.
Let's talk about threats. What is the biggest obstacle to the success of this group?
Health. I'm going to say health of the starting quarterback. That's the thing. You just, he made it through last year fine, but we've dealt with some times. Hell, in training camp, we were all dealing with what's the shoulder thing he's dealing with? What's, there's the calf that remember when his calf got hurt, he was on such a run in the New England game. You win that game in OT. And then after that, it wasn't the same quarterback. Mm-hmm. I think the only thing that slows this group down is health. If in fact, that's if you want to call it that.
The calendar. I think the calendar is the biggest opposition for the Cowboys quarterback. And Dak Prescott, obviously, he's the lead horse, so that's who we're talking about.
Signing him?
No, not necessarily just that. That also as well. But his play during the regular season, more often than not, is phenomenal over the course of his career. He's had his down moments, obviously, but for the most part, he's elite in the regular season. Calendar flips to January.
Yeah.
What happens? So for me, I don't know what that intangible is. And again, Dak Prescott did not lose the game for the Cowboys against the Packers. The defense did. You just needed Dak Prescott to save the day, and he was unable to do that. But I think that this quarterback group needs to figure out how to hit that switch in January, or to at least keep that momentum going from an excellent regular season and stop running into that wall in January. There's like this wall waiting for them in January, and until they break through, we're going to keep having these conversations.
I would say the word committee. That word, when I hear it, I'm like, it gives me bad flashbacks. And this is not.
You're saying the personnel around him?
And this is not specifically to quarterback, but talking about the running games, the running back. When I heard that word committee, and we know how important, again, we focus on quarterback, but it does affect. You have to be able to establish the run. How are you going to do that? You have to help your quarterback establishing the run and not just
really
relying on the passing game.
Yeah, that's really good.
So as soon as I heard the word committee, I'm like, "Whoa, say what? Say what?"
That word is not a good word around here.
Committee got you Amari Cooper.
Yeah,
and
exactly
a first-round pick went out the door.
Yep. So something to keep an eye on. I don't like hearing that.
And I'll take that even one step further. It's not just the running backs. To me, it's the inexperience on the offensive line combined with this running back by committee not having a really established, top-notch, every down type running back. You combine those two things, it's probably more on the shoulders of the quarterback than it's ever been in Dak Prescott's time here with the Cowboys.
Fair.
Yeah.
He's always, since the moment he's got here, he's always had a lead back that he could rely on. He's, for the most part, had a really good offensive line. This is going to be the first year where he could have a good offensive line. Maybe he couldn't. We don't know because there's some new parts to that. The running back by committee could work. Maybe it doesn't. I think there are more question marks right now with the surrounding cast of Dak Prescott than ever before in his career, and that's why it's going to be more on his shoulders to see how much success this team can have.
I don't think they'll get out of training camp without an answer at running back.
You mean somebody that's not on the roster?
No. They're going to know they're not going to let committee go into week 4.
Gotcha.
They're going to say, you know what, our offensive line's improved. We're not getting to and through the line. We don't have the explosive players. We need to do better. We're going to have to ship a 5th-round pick somewhere to get a guy.
Yeah.
Whether it's surplus at one of the other teams, I don't see them going into week 1 being committee running back. I think they're going to find a way to establish either it's going to work, they're going to find their guys here, or they're going to go get somebody. But I don't think it's going to get to week 4, week 5 like we saw for Amari Cooper.
All right. That is a wrap. We'll be back next week, and we'll go through our position series again. We'll move on to the tight ends, maybe get to running backs, might even get to receivers. We'll see. Until then, for Patrick Walker, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this,